Hello.
Hello.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hello, everyone. So we're just going to wait for a couple people to join, maybe just a couple minutes. In the meantime, welcome to the webinar. I'm here with special guest Tom Hewitson, founder of labworks.io. Tom, do you want to show them the T-shirt that you're wearing?
You made me wear the new swag. Oh, there we go. There we go. This is the new swag. You too can have swag like this at some point.
Yes.
Can they?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Last month, if you had built a skill last month,
yeah,
you will have, and you signed up for the developer promotion, then that will be sent to you. This is limited edition.
It's the best one. It's the best T-shirt that I've seen so far. It's kind of cute.
Yeah. I'm just going to.
This is going to be another opportunity for people if they didn't build a skill to get another one.
Well, this month we have a tote bag.
The tote bag.
Yeah. So an Alexa tote bag is also pretty cool. And then every month we have a different one.
Okay.
So
I'm sure if you tweet at Matoni enough, that he'll give you one.
Let's put it this way: if you are watching this webinar, and you're going to participate in the games challenge, and you tweet me about it, and it's a great game, I'll see what I can do.
Great. And if it doesn't work, then you can have the one I'm wearing.
But wash it first, please. Tom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, I don't know. People might want that.
Oh yeah, but with celebrities then. Okay. Cool. All right. So we gave a minute or two for people to join. I think we can slowly get started and slowly get in the mood. So the main reason why we're doing this webinar is to give you tips on how to build good skills. And I thought to myself, rather than just me droning on for an hour, I thought, hey, why don't I get someone who has built great skills and consistently builds great skills and share his experiences. And by doing that, we can also maybe have a conversation. So it's going to be a mix of a kind of like a talk show, hopefully, but practical and useful. And we also have our trusty little Echo device here, where we will be doing maybe some demos when certain great skills come to mind, not just made by Tom, but by other developers that we love as well. So, Tom, maybe do you want to, for people who have never heard of LabWorks, but definitely have heard of your games, maybe do you want to talk a little bit about what you do? And
Sure. Cool. So, hi, I'm Tom. I run LabWorks. I guess we're one of the bigger voice games developers in Europe. We started way back when Alexa came to UK with a game called Would You Rather, that built honestly as an experiment to see what the platform could do, and then largely forgot about until I got a phone call from someone at Amazon saying, like, hey, do you realize that this is one of the most popular games on the platform? So that kind of made me realize how great gaming on Alexa could be. And so then we went along and created a game called True or False, which is also fairly well known. And then our most recent one is a game called Trivia Hero, which we released about 3 months ago. During that time, we've also released a few kind of other titles that weren't quite as big, like the Fake News game, which was more of a kind of an interesting project for us and kind of a bit of a passion project, but possibly not quite as like mainstream as some of the other stuff. So hopefully you can kind of talk about like why some skills are likely to succeed and why some skills are not. Just
to give you a high-level overview of what we're going to talk about, we're going to cover the following topics. We're going to cover, first of all, just give you the link to the Games Challenge in case you want to sign up. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how to think of a good skill idea. So, Tom, you have a lot of skills that you've thought of, and I'm sure you have a backlog of things that you want to build. How do you prioritize? What factors have you seen that consistently perform well versus factors that you thought were going to perform well but haven't? Then we're going to cover testing, right? Especially if you are popular, testing becomes even more important because you start getting hit by hundreds of thousands of people, and you got to you have to handle that. Then we're going to also talk a little bit about how we should manage content. As content, grows, to keep your skill appetizing, you have to make sure you add more and more content. So how do you manage that? And what can you do to start out? Because people have 6-7 weeks to sign up to submit their skill for the games challenge. So as we were discussing earlier, maybe like we can talk long term for a fully fledged solution, but also share when you initially started seeing tons of usage, what you did to make sure that things were working. And then let me see if we have anything else. Yes, then we'll just talk a little bit about how you deal with success. In the terms of like, what do you do with your back end? Do you do anything? What do you do with how do you make changes to your skill knowing that it's being used consistently by a lot of developers? And then we're just going to, throughout or maybe towards the end, also demo some other skills.
Yeah, kind of pick on a few of the kind of the favorites that are around, and maybe deconstruct what like things that they're doing well, so you can kind of learn from them.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome. So really excited to start.
Yep.
Let's just make sure that everyone is aware of the challenge. So for UK, Ireland, Germany, and Austria developers, we have the Games Challenge. And the Alexa Skills Game Challenge is a challenge that is running until October. You can sign up at alexagames.bemyapp.com, and all you have to do is build a skill and publish it by the deadline, and you could be one of the 10 finalists and then the finalist. And we have more than 50,000 euros in prizes. I don't know exactly how much that is in pounds, but a lot of prizes. And I think it's a great opportunity it's a great excuse to start building game skills, because we see it's a category that's very engaging with customers. And if you win it, you not only get the prizes, but you can be sure that we will be giving you a lot of visibility. We'll definitely be sharing the winners or the finalists. So even getting in the top 10, I think, is a great achievement. So please sign up to alexagames.bemyapp.com.
Yeah, pretty much every developer that I've spoken to is super excited about this competition. I think it's definitely the best one that Amazon have run so far. Everyone that I've spoken to is entering something, and I think that's really exciting. This is kind of like a great opportunity for the community to kind of really show what you can do, because games are kind of an opportunity to play with the platform and to kind of be a bit more creative, possibly. So I think this is a really, really kind of great one to get involved with.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I completely second that. And keep in mind that it is only for European developers, UK and Germany, Ireland and Austria as well. But the main two countries, the main two regions are those. So it's not one of those worldwide challenges. So you also have the advantage of being in. Why
not France? Sorry, France. Quel dommage.
So what we should start talking about is how to pick good ideas.
Yeah.
So sign up. This is the last time I'm going to put this link up. Maybe I'll link it later as well. But alexagames.bemyapp.com if you haven't already done so. So let's move on to what to build. So what I always tell developers is, and this is generic, it doesn't just apply to gaming, but if you're evaluating a skill idea, make sure that it works with the medium that is voice, in that it has to be easier or faster or feel more natural to do via voice than the normal way of doing things. Do you think that applies to gaming, and what other criteria do you use?
Well, I think with voice games, you really got to play to the strengths of the platform. I mean, I think anything I'm going to say here is kind of common sense if you think about it. These devices are in people's homes. They're kind of in communal places, they're in public places.
And now we're also, now cars are going to be Alexa enabled. So like There's going to be more and more times where you have...
I mean, the statistics show that half of all the times that a smart speaker is used, there is somebody else present in the room. So you really need to kind of be considering more than one player of game. Pretty much every game on Alexa should be multiplayer in nature, or it should have some kind of multiplayer components. There are ways that you could build games that don't have anything as formal as a kind of how many people want to play, but still have a multiplayer type experience where you're playing together collaboratively. But if you're not considering that second person or that group of other people, chances are you're not going to get kind of much usage, because as soon as someone else comes in the room and interrupts you or interrupts the person that's playing, they're going to stop playing. Right. If someone else can't be involved.
Exactly. And if you're doing a 2-hour car ride,
right,
and the game is one player, and you're sitting with a friend in the passenger seat, and you're like, well, now you have to shut up because I'm going to play a game with Alexa the whole ride. It's much better if that game either implicitly, as you were saying, or explicitly supports multiplayer, so that more people can participate. And I like what you said as well, that the context in which these devices are used usually include other people in the surroundings, right? So it's be good to be mindful.
So in the same way that you're kind of building a voice first experience, it really needs to be a communal first experience. You can kind of do single player things. People do play our games single player. You look at statistics, people do play the game single player, but you need to be thinking about the kind of the multiplayer experience first, and then thinking how you scale that back to single player, rather than starting with a single player and then trying to bolt on like a multiplayer version afterwards.
Yeah. And what type of multiplayer experience have you seen works well with your skills or other people's skills as well?
So, I mean, most people go straight for the how many people want to play, and then you answer his question, and then you play kind of as turns, like against each other. So that's kind of like competitive gaming. But you do also see in kind of like user research, like games like Yes Sire, which doesn't have a multiplayer version, but people play kind of collaboratively with each other, where they take it in turns to answer the questions. Or we were just playing a game called Feel the Pressure, and again we were kind of like taking it in turns to play, because we were kind of working to build against the accumulator. And you don't always need to have something as kind of formal as how many people want to play. It really depends on the format.
And that goes back to like having implicit multiplayer, right? Like if it's done in a way that it entices two people to work together, like we were just playing Feel the Pressure, and I think we should play another round now.
Yeah,
just
should we play it now?
A word of warning: it causes a lot of pressure and stress. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're easily stressed, tune out now.
Put it on mute for the next minute.
Alexa, open Feel the Pressure.
Feel the pressure. So far, you have yet to win a game. You can stop the game at any time by saying, Alexa, stop. Now, let's play.
This audio bite is just like Inception style.
Level 1. Feel the pressure. The letter of the alphabet is F. Stand by for your question. What, F, is the country famous for? Wine, food, and the Eiffel Tower?
France.
You said France.
I was going to say Italy, but...
France is the correct answer. Level 2. Feel the pressure. The letter of the alphabet is R. Stand by for your question. What, R, is condensed moisture falling from the sky?
You want to get that one?
I can't understand what you're saying. Speak clearly and try again.
Oh, okay.
What, R, is condensed moisture falling from the sky?
Rain.
You said rain.
I rain is the falling from the sky
correct
part. I
answer.
thought it was the morning dew.
Got an advantage.
Level 3. Feel the pressure. The letter
I
of the alphabet is L. Stand by for your question. What L is a maze?
Labyrinth.
You said labyrinth.
Yeah, that
Labyrinth is the correct answer. You need to up your game. The time for lucky guesses is over.
How rude!
Alexa, quit.
How rude. Lucky guess. That was not a lucky guess. That was the product
insulting our culture. So you saw that game, and even though it didn't say how many players want to play, still you were able to enjoy it, have fun.
You know, feels like a kind of a naturally collaborative experience. So basically all games, all voice games really should have some kind of communal element to them. In terms of other things, you know, like Alexa, or the way that people kind of interact with Alexa, it's a kind of it's what I like to call a casual device. It's something that they kind of are using to fill a bit of time. If they want to kind of play like a hardcore game, you know, they're more likely to go to like a console or a PC or even to their mobile phone. You know, this kind of Alexa particularly fits a kind of a gaming space that's, you know, pick it up for a few minutes, you know, to kind of like fill a bit of time. You know, that kind of means you're looking at like average game time of no longer than 15 minutes, you know, per session.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't want to build anything that's really like takes longer than 15 minutes to get to the payoff, because otherwise people are going to get quite frustrated.
And you have some pretty popular games, right?
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you that you should aim for casual gaming, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe it's while you're preparing food, maybe it's while you're in the car, maybe it's while you're, you know, having friends over and you just want to show them the Echo device. But some of your games, you track the longest and shortest sessions, and you were telling me that some of your games get some power users. Right?
Oh, yeah. You know, there are always going to be some people that are going to play like really intense amounts. I mean, you know, we have people that play like 18 hours. You know, we have people that play for like hours every day for like years, but you know, they are not the typical user. You don't want to kind of build a product for them. You don't want to build a game for them. You know, in fact, there was an interesting discussion on Twitter today about how compared to mobile, it's very hard to build addictive games on Alexa. But I actually think that's a really good thing. I think that's a really like nice thing about Alexa, and it's something that I've noticed when we do user research sessions, particularly with parents, is that parents feel a lot more comfortable like letting their children play games on Alexa than they do on like iPad or mobile phone, because it feels less addictive.
Right.
And I guess that probably brings me to my third point of kind of what to build. It's got to be kid friendly, really. You know, I know that like other people do own these devices, but the kind of the large users that we see tend to be families. We tend to see people playing with kids. You know, we get a lot of reviews from people saying like, oh, you know, I love to play true or false with my 7-year-old grandson to teach him about the world. Or, you know, Trivia Hero is perfect for family game night. Like one of my team has a young daughter that loves Would You Rather and plays it again and again and again. And I must have heard the question, like every single question, hundreds of times, but just finds it hilarious the whole time. In a way
awesome.
in a way that it wouldn't necessarily work for adults. But
and I like to think as kids as being as having a higher tolerance for imperfection and a lower threshold to consider things magical.
Yeah,
entertaining.
That's a really interesting thing. The thing that I've kids are easier to delight.
Exactly.
But I actually think that it's hard. Like, an adult is able to figure out if something doesn't work quite right, how to get to that next step to continue the process. Whereas a kid will give up straight away. They have like zero tolerance for like if they can't make it work, if it's confusing and they don't know where to go, that's it. It'll be over.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's a really interesting thing because it means that you have to make your experience really simple. And when you're designing and building a game for Alexa, you really should be thinking, is this simple enough that a child could use it? And if the answer is no, you should be like really, really certain that like which kind of demographic you're going for, because it's probably not going to be such a broad demographic if you can't do that.
Right. So to recap, tip number 1, communal first.
Yep, communal.
The second number one. The number 2 is
so communal, kid-friendly, and what was the second point? I've totally forgotten. We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, it was multiplayer, kid-friendly, and I remember. Probably someone else remembers.
Yeah. If you remember, write it in the comments, please.
So we have a question here. Are you judging more on the idea for the game and user experience rather than scalability, maintainability, DevOps, and other technical delivery aspects? So right now we're talking just about how you brainstorm for skills, right? But do you take into consideration, what load it will have, how to... we will cover testing and scaling later on in the webinar, so don't worry, Ian. But right now we're just covering like what makes a good idea, or what to build. And as Tom was saying, the skills that he's built that worked well were ones that were able to include multiple players, that were able to be used by kids, were easy to use.
Yeah.
And for casual gaming.
Yeah, that's it. Casual gaming. Casual gaming. So I feel like there you go. Someone's reading.
Casual gamers. Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah. The
and Milan as well. They both gave us tips. Thank you very much for paying more attention than us to our own webinar.
So I think Ian was asking specifically about the competition, which I don't know. I'm not judging the competition, so I can't tell you what they're judging that on. But I can talk a bit about scalability.
We'll cover that later. But so just to answer your specific question, thank you for clarifying. So the competition itself will be judged. You have to publish your skill, and the judges will just evaluate it as a whole. So how fun it is, how well it works, just in general, how good of a game it is. So definitely idea counts, but also you have to make sure that the content is fresh, that it makes users want to use it again. So just think of it as building a good game holistically, not just the idea or the DevOps side. So let's go forward, just because we have
one more point to say on the what to build is take the time to look at the skills store before you pick what you're going to build. See what's already out there, what's doing well, what isn't doing well. You'll get a pretty good idea of like what kinds of games work and what don't. And also get a sense of like where the competition is. Like, I mean, I personally think that the quiz skills space is getting pretty saturated now. There's quite a lot of people in it. Like you better like have something really kind of extra to add if you want to do a quiz skill, because there's already quite a lot of those out there, and you need to kind of have something that's going to like stand out from the rest of the crowd, whether that's through your content or through the mechanic or something. But like a quick way to kind of disappearing into the depths of the skill store forever is to kind of do exactly the same as something that already exists,
and that is doing well.
Yeah,
because that means more people will be likely to use that one rather than yeah, for sure. So definitely a good tip is get to know what's already out there.
Yeah.
And learn from the best. So testing. Now, testing, I want to talk to you about testing both from a code perspective, right? So on the technical level, what sort of techniques do you employ, or the developers employ, and on the higher level, what's your approach to testing? And from inception to creation and final delivery of the skill. So you mentioned earlier in the first point that you do some user research, right? That's a form of testing, right? Because you kind of test your idea against people, but then you also have the code part. So let's maybe go in order.
Okay.
So once you have an idea in your head, how do you go about testing whether it works?
I'm pretty sure that testing is about 90% of building a successful skill. So yeah, we have a pretty rigorous testing process all the way along. So we will do initial kind of concepting, come up with a bunch of ideas, and you try and come up with almost as many as you possibly can that kind of meet those criteria that we discussed in the first section. And then you go out and testing against what else is out there and how those are performing is kind of one thing that you can do. Then once you've kind of got rid of any that weren't any good, you would then go out and test with users which kind of ideas that people like the sound of.
Okay, so you just tell them the idea, and they tell you how they feel about it.
So trying to kind of, if you know some people that already have Alexa devices that you can ask, then that's not a bad idea. Okay. Always take that kind of stuff with a pinch of salt, because people will always say that an idea sounds great when they have no kind of concept of what it is, but it does help to kind of steer you in the right direction. You only really want to do that just to kind of prioritize something kind of very loosely, and then you go and kind of try and write some demo, a demo script of a few kind of options. So we normally try and kind of whittle it down to three to five potential things that we're kind of interested in doing, and we'll write some kind of scripts, some fake conversations pretending to be the user and Alexa for those, and we'll kind of role play those through either as a team or with users, and try and kind of figure out from those which ones are the most enjoyable. And we have canned projects at that stage because they just didn't feel that fun when you did it. That's really the point where you'll first get a sense of whether something might even be fun. Then as soon as you've kind of got to a point where you can say this one is our preferred option, build a really kind of simple prototype of the core game mechanics. So what kind of drives the success of your game is going to be the kind of the mechanic of whatever it is that you're doing, and if you can't get that right, no amount of kind of other stuff is really going to no amount of polish is going to fix that. So you need to kind of make sure that works, and that you're kind of getting a good kind of response to that. Sorry.
No, I just want to maybe clarify what you meant by mechanic. The way that I interpret mechanic is the core way that the game works, which translates to the core way that users will have to interact with the skill, right?
So for example, in Trivia Hero, the mechanic is that you have to answer as many questions as you can in 60 seconds.
The mechanic in Yes Sire is that you have to always make a yes/no decision on things that come up every time.
Well, the mechanic on Yes Sire is that you're trying to stay between that boundary of having too much influence and not having enough money.
Right.
And you're making decisions to try and stay within that.
Right.
Each mechanic is going to be the mechanic is what makes the game. Everything else is just kind of window dressing. The mechanic is what makes the game, which is why you need to put all the energy on getting that right before you do anything else, because without that you don't really have a game.
But it's also important that the mechanic is how the game works, but a core part of the mechanic is also how the input output is handled. Because on Alexa specifically, since it's so turn-based, it really influences if the game feels natural or is fun to play or not.
Exactly.
Because if Yes Sire were open-ended, then you might still need to make decisions, and you needed to stay within the boundaries of influence and money. But If then you make it open-ended, then it's a bit more confusing what you can say, what options you have at your disposal. And so keeping it yes, no kind of gives it that casual feel that we were talking about earlier.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know. You have to kind of ask Volley, but I suspect the reason they went with yes, no is just for recognition. So, you know, the tighter, so the more you can get people to say like specific things, the better your recognition will be. So yes, sire, where you have to say yes or no, you know, Alexa will very reliably pick up yes or no, or, you know, true or false, which is another one of ours. You know, it will very reliably pick up true or false. Whereas, you know, Trivia Hero, where you can answer any question randomly with any answer, or you know, feel the pressure to just demonstrate it, you know, that's much more challenging from a recognition perspective. And, you know, in those games you tend to see Alexa mishearing stuff more regularly, and so there is a lot more technical work involved in fixing that. And
since this, I think, is also part of testing,
given
that, you know, a lot of developers may make skills that are open-ended and not just yes, no, what things have you done to improve the way that Alexa understands open-ended questions? You know, like from the voice model, like how do you structure your slots, and how do you make sure that the recognition is as good as it can be with things that you can control?
Well, so I mean, with like structuring the slots and all of that kind of stuff, you really want to. I guess we spent a lot of time just kind of sticking in kind of like what was about right, you know, and you know, not exactly following the letter of the kind of Alexa documentation to the T. You know, we didn't kind of put the extra effort into kind of making sure that the sample utterances had the full stops in the right place, or had the right capitalization, or all of that kind of stuff. And you know, and we would get feedback from certification teams around that. And we found as we actioned that out, it did have a meaningful impact on recognition. So there is definitely things that you can do to kind of improve recognition just by following Amazon's guidelines, much tighter than I think most people do. You know, like other developers that I talk to, we're not the only people that do that. Most people are, oh, well, it's going to take too long and it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like, what's a full stop anyway? Like, you know, but it does actually make a big difference.
Especially when it comes to acronyms.
And
it does matter. So make sure that you do follow the documentation on properly using punctuation in your slot values and in your utterances. Let me just check if there's any questions. Is it possible to get a copy of this webinar to see it again because it's so good? I added the so good part. Marcel, yes, it will be recorded, and I'll be sharing the link on Twitter once I'm done. So yes, it will be.
Cool. I was going to say, sorry. The other thing on recognition is that it's quite a laborious task. So we spend a lot of time just updating the training data and the slot values. You know, we keep track. We log out everything that the user says that doesn't kind of match to an answer, and then we figure out what to do with it. And you know, we have 2 full-time writers on the team whose job, as part of their jobs, is to kind of look at that and decide this word, like the user said this in response to a question. Was that a correct answer? Was it an incorrect answer? Did Alexa mishear them, or what? And to classify it in our system so that then we can handle it in different ways.
Have you used the intent history?
Yeah, we've used so the kind of the overarching thing. The thing that's not so useful about that is that it kind of just gives you everything for the skill. Whereas you want to know at kind of which state in the game, at what point in the game.
Then you log it yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is that what tends to happen, especially if you build a game that's, you know, like a lot of people, you know, Trivia Hero has like thousands of questions and thousands of answers, is that you have like a big interaction model, and you tend to get things matching that are also in your interaction model, but aren't the appropriate match for the specific state that you're in at that point in time.
Right.
And the intent history API doesn't really help with that yet. Although, God, I hope it does at some point.
Yeah.
Be a big help.
Yeah.
But you can still get to that data yourself. If you kind of you can just log it out from the slot value. You'll get your kind of whatever Alexa thinks it's heard.
And just to close on testing, we've talked about everything until the voice model. What about the Lambda part? So how do you go about making sure that your Lambda is rock solid, and even once you start getting thousands or hundreds of thousands of users, that bugs are addressed quickly, and that any changes you make, you're confident to push, because you know it won't break everything.
Okay, so in terms of like that kind of side of stuff, write tests that write unit tests and end-to-end tests and functional tests, and all the stuff that you would kind of like expect to do if you're doing test-driven development. That's kind of pretty much standard. I think there's no kind of like way around that. One of the advantages of using Lambda is that it scales really nicely. We did projects earlier on like using Express on like Heroku and stuff that doesn't scale quite so well, and you can have issues there. Trying to think, it's a bit unusual for us because we have a full-time QA person whose job it is to kind of play through our games like again and again, and to know them kind of inside out, and
which is what a developer should do. They don't have this QA person; they should be the ones trying it over and over again. And how do you simplify the end-to-end testing without having to? I mean, obviously you're going to have a point where you're going to have to do it on a real device and try it end-to-end. But how would you suggest to simplify the end-to-end testing for developers that don't have a full QA person?
Well, I mean, to an extent, there's always a bit of work to be done there, but there are some tools out there that you can use, things like Bespoken. If you're not using Bespoken in your testing, like I recommend looking at it. We use Bespoken, or at least part of it. They have a kind of they have like different levels of service that they can provide. I mean, they can provide you with a full kind of end-to-end testing service themselves, although like you have to pay for that. And
Bespoken, bespoken.tools or .io, and they're doing a ton of great stuff around skill building, testing. They have a service like a Bespoken proxy where you can tunnel Alexa requests to your local host so you can debug locally. Like, there's a bunch of cool stuff that they're doing. So definitely check them out. Bespoken.io.
And they can also do monitoring. So they monitor your skill. Like one of the kind of really important things is to make sure your skill never goes down, because if it goes down, you only have a few hours before Amazon kind of like whip you out the skill store, or you're like. I mean that's what I always was led to believe, that you had a few hours before you would kind of be removed, at least until you've fixed it. But in that time, you can lose quite a lot of your natural reach.
The goal is not to be in that situation. So with good testing and thorough testing, and using technologies that scale well, and we'll talk about scaling later, that helps.
And also just like. Don't like deploy new features directly to prod, like run a test server or run a test Lambda. You can do beta test. There's beta testing functionality. Make sure that you've tested everything yourself. Try and get your friends. I mean, to be honest, like a lot of this, like you want to be doing anyway, because you need to do user testing and to get some kind of like beta feedback before you launch anyway.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense to kind of have this process set up anyway.
One of the biggest tips that I always give is, use the beta test functionality. So that gives you the option of, so in your skill building console, when you go to distribution, you can start a beta test, and you can invite up to 500 people to try your skill just by having their email address. and that will send them an email where they can click yes to add that skill to their account, still in development mode. So it's not locked, it's not, final. You can keep making changes, and they will always have the latest version. And once you're ready, then you submit for certification. Because once you submit for certification, your skill interaction model gets locked down. And the only way to change it is to go into development mode and resubmit after you're done. So when you go into development mode, the skill is going to be in development mode on your account only. So there you might want to switch over the Lambda to a test Lambda so that you don't touch the production Lambda. So you can make changes on both ends. Once you're done with that, you can start a beta test if you want. And once you're done with that, then you resubmit for certification and make sure you change the Lambda to be the one.
Or you just swap your Lambdas over.
Yes, or you swap your Lambdas over. You do like a how would you call that in the tech world, where you have like a double redundancy where alternatively one is the prod and one is the test, right? And at every version, the test becomes a prod and the prod becomes a test, and you keep alternating between each version. Let me just see if there's any questions. How complicated develop should a skill be to have a chance to win? It's just a matter of how fun it is and how good of a game it is. So don't think it has to be complicated, Jennifer. So make sure that you build a great game. A winner of the latest of an earlier challenge for Kid Skills was Kids Court, and that was built using Storyline, which is a tool. GetStoryline.com, which is a tool where you can build skills without even coding, and it was a great skill because it allows to arbitrate children's arguments, and that won. So don't think it has to be a complicated skill. I'm not saying that Kids Court was a simple skill and easy to replicate, but I'm just saying you don't need to be a super expert developer to build a winning skill. Are there any plans to let the code point to be an expected intent? So Fiona asks, are there any plans to basically have an expected intent? No, but so currently that's not available. That may change in the future, but we do have a fallback intent. So that was something that was also missing earlier. Now we have it. So if a utterance doesn't match any of the closest intents, it will hit the fallback intent.
And fallback intent does help improve recognition as well. If you implement it, you will see, I don't know, like about 5% improvement. Oh. It's meaningful. Like it's worth it. It's definitely worth doing.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on because I just want to be mindful of people's times. We have so much stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Content management. So maybe we don't have to go too long into this, but the reason I brought this up is because Tom, part of his big effort. So first of all, you weren't you didn't start out your career as a developer.
No.
Right?
Yeah, I started as a journalist. So my background was always in writing, so I guess the content side always came more naturally to me, which I think has been kind of pretty useful actually in the game space.
I would say it's been critical.
Yeah.
Because what kills a game the fastest is when it becomes stale.
Yeah, basically when you run out of content, people stop playing. That's the long and the short of it. And you need to kind of, if you have meaningful amounts of success, like people start using your skill, they'll get through your content really fast. It's amazing actually how quickly they will get through hundreds and hundreds of questions in the space of half an hour. People really will get through stuff fast.
Yeah.
And so to kind of make up for that, you need to write and commission thousands and thousands of questions or bits of content or whatever. So we have 2 full-time writers whose whole job is just creating content for games. Now, not you don't need to do that to kind of build a successful game, but you do need to think about kind of how you create great content, good kind of content experience that's kind of really high quality, and that involves doing the kind of the extra legwork, updating the kind of what Alexa says with the SSML so that the pronunciation is right, so that the intonation is right. You can do with all sorts of things, playing with the pitch and the rate of speech and the emphasis, and breaks in what Alexa says. There's a bunch of different things that you can do, and you really need to kind of spend quite a lot of time fine-tuning that to get it to sound really natural.
Yeah. And SSML is a great point.
Yeah.
I always talk about it as well,
Yeah.
because it really gives that little bit of a natural touch, because you can't always rely purely on the automatic interpretation of your punctuation.
Yeah, but it's because it doesn't always know exactly what you intended it for it to mean.
Exactly. So you have those tools at your disposal to instruct the text-to-speech engine to say, hey, look, you should also use this. Speaking of text-to-speech, you shouldn't just use, or you don't need to only use Alexa's voice. You can also use other text-to-speech engines like Polly, Amazon Polly, that allows you to use, like Yes Sire does, that allows you to use, has a bunch of different languages, has a bunch of different speakers for each language, and that can vary. If you're writing a story, you can vary. Maybe you have an Australian character and a British character and an American character, or I even tried to have one Italian text-to-speech engine speak English, and that was like an Italian with a very thick accent speaking English, right?
Nice.
So you could even create those characters where you might not expect a text-to-speech engine to not speak properly, right?
Yeah, that's very nice. And the other thing you can do is you can kind of go the whole hog and use real audio. So you can kind of use either a human voice or sound effects or whatever it is that you want to do. And some of the most engaging skills have gone down that route. Like the kind of the interactive fiction kind of genre. So Earplay and RuneScape, and there's a kind of they tend to be more in the storytelling kind of world. I think that this is like a really, really interesting and kind of like fruitful area for exploration, because nobody has done it. Or it's not that nobody's done it, but there isn't that many people that have done it. But the reason that nobody or not many people have done it is because it's kind of like hard and quite labor intensive to create that audio.
Yeah. And speaking of content management, to then edit it. If you need to make a change, you have to re-record everything.
Oh my god, it's so frustrating. Honestly, that's the worst thing about using real audio, is that if you're not kind of fairly baked on your script, then you end up re-recording it again and again, and it's that you just feel like, why am I spending so much time just doing this?
Yes. So prioritize content.
Yeah.
And I think the order of priority should be great mechanic, content, and by content, I also mean making sure that you have a way of, continuously refreshing it, and then deciding, should I use the text-to-speech? Should I use a different text-to-speech? Should I record this? But if you go in that order, you're more likely to build a good skill, because you're not focusing on the details. You're focusing on the core concepts first, and those will help with. And then just the type of voice is just something that can really elevate the skill, but you can always do that later.
Yeah.
You can have a working skill and submit it for the competition without having a voice actor. You can always sub that out later. Let's see if there's any questions. Is there a way to run game ideas past you? Yes. Feel free to reach us out on Twitter, or reach me out on Twitter. I don't know if
Tom, you can.
Just reach out to me on Twitter. I'll put the Twitters in the last slide. And can it be a kid skill if you've already run a competition for that? Absolutely. As long as it's a game, Jennifer, it can be a kid skill. Might be even better, because I
was going to say, I think that there's still plenty of space to the kid skill. There's not many people have done there are some good, but they're really not loads and loads of them yet.
Yeah. So definitely, absolutely, if you have a great skill idea, but it also can be considered a game, absolutely use it. So let's go to scaling and dealing with success. So this is a great problem to have, right? I was joking to Tom earlier about, what do you do now that everyone is asking for your autograph? And but seriously, you kind of have to be mindful that your skill could become very successful, and that success entails a bit of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a lot of people can start hitting it, so you have to make sure your backend is sufficiently scalable. So if you use Lambda, you're covered. But even if you use Lambda, if you're using other APIs from Lambda, be mindful that some APIs have a free tier, but then you have to start paying, right? Like, for example, I built a skill that looks up recipes based on what you have at home. But the recipe API I'm using has a free tier, and if I go above that, it'll start throttling me, and that might mess up my my usage. It might start failing. So be very mindful that you are able to satisfy thousands of requests, and God forbid, or hopefully for you, hundreds of thousands or millions of requests if you start getting massively popular.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is something I think about a lot. I was just pulling up a stat that we reckon that people have been in the last year, people have spent about 20 years worth of time playing our games on Alexa. Which you do feel a kind of a sense of responsibility to make sure that is time well spent. It's it's not just about making sure that it's a kind of like a technically well executed solution, that it's well designed. It's about like the premise, being something worthwhile, that people have kind of got something of value from your skill, like something from your game that they've kind of like finished that experience enriched in some way. And I think that's a kind of a really nice way to kind of think about building these experiences, is if you deliver value to the user, then they will use your game.
Absolutely. Let's see if there's any other new questions. Nope. Cool. So we have 9 minutes.
9 minutes
left. Anything else that you would like to share that maybe I haven't, bothered you about? Kept harassing you to talk about things.
I think that so this was something that I said to you earlier. I think that it is unlikely. Most people probably are not going to be. You really want to try and find someone else to work with. If you can, if you've got a kind of like, if you're like a badass developer and you've got a friend that's an amazing writer, or vice versa, you're like a kind of a super creative designer, and you know someone that can write. It is a lot like we find developing our games that kind of creative tension of the different disciplines kind of kicking ideas backwards and forwards between each other is really, really integral to finding something that's successful.
And not to mention, it also helps you prototype.
Yeah.
Because if you have two people, you don't even need Alexa in the first prototyping stage. You can just one person be Alexa, the other person be the user, and try and have a back and forth interaction and see if it works well or not.
Yeah. And so, if there was kind of like one thing that could kind of say like will help you kind of like build a better game, it's to like find someone to help you build a better game, which is like the worst advice ever.
It's the worst. You could say that, but it's actually great advice because it's not only going to help you share the work, but it's also going to help you have someone to bounce ideas, as you were saying, as well as prototype the skill in the human back and forth conversation format. So why don't we use? So for those of you who were asking about Twitter and sharing, Mila asks, any tips for marketing? How to make it easier for people to discover my game skills? So the games challenge in itself could be a great way to make it known, because every skill that's submitted will go through a judging panel, and the top 10 finalists will have a special support, and then the finalists, of course, will be the winner. But there's tons of prizes, and I'll be sure, or I'm sure that the top skills will definitely be considered maybe in our marketing campaigns, in our emails. So the games challenge in itself is a great marketing opportunity. If beyond the marketing, beyond the games challenge itself, maybe this is where you can come in since you have some of the most popular skills. Like, how did you go from, apart from, Would You Rather, which of course was something that you didn't even expect.
Yeah.
But the next skills, when you were like, okay, now I want to build a hit game. What did you do to make sure that happened?
Didn't think about marketing at all.
Didn't think about marketing at all.
If there's one thing that people often ask me this actually, it's like one of the most common things that people ask me. If you focus on building a really good experience, you will surface on the platform. Like you will show up in the skills store. You will start getting organic traffic. It's if people keep coming back to your game and they keep playing your game, you're getting good kind of good retention.
And they tell people
good amount of time. Yeah, good word of mouth. But you will just organically start getting good traffic, and that's kind of unless you have kind of got over, it might be relevant to talk about marketing when you kind of have reached the point where you're getting hundreds of users a day organically and you want to kind of go to thousands of users.
Yeah.
But if you're not getting kind of that lower level organically first, you're probably better off spending your time on the product and thinking about kind of how you can improve the game itself rather than doing marketing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to just put this slide up just so you have our contact information. We still have 5 minutes, so maybe we can try out a couple skills.
Yeah.
So we tried out Feel the Pressure.
Yeah.
Maybe we can try out.
Which one do you want to go next?
We had a long list of the ones that we tried to try.
Should we do Guess My Name next?
Yes, Guess My Name. Let's do that.
Alexa, play Guess My Name.
Here's Guess My Name from the games, trivia and accessories category. I'll give you a series of 3 clues, and you need to guess who I am as quickly as you can. Do you want to hear the full list of categories, or play animated characters?
Animated characters.
You've chosen animated characters. How many people are playing?
2.
Multiplayer.
Got it. Starting 2-player game with the category animated characters.
I suck at animated characters.
Now, take 5 seconds and assign each player a number between 1 and 4.
You're going to be 1. Okay, I'll be 2. Hey, I'm 4.
If someone gets it right, I'll check which player gave the answer, so make sure everyone remembers their player number. Lastly, players don't need to wait their turn to guess. Any player can shout out an answer at any point during the game.
That's a great mechanic.
For example, you might say, Alexa, you're Mickey Mouse.
It's very interesting technically how it works.
Are you ready to start the game?
Yes.
Question 1 of 5. First clue for 5 points. I first appeared in the book, Peter and Wendy, by J.M. Barrie. Who am I?
Peter Pan?
Alexa, Peter Pan.
Peter Pan is incorrect.
Oh!
That's confusing.
Second clue for 3 points. I came to the animated screen in a Walt Disney film, playing opposite the little boy who wouldn't grow up.
Tinkerbell. Alexa! Tinkerbell.
No, it's Captain Hook, surely.
Tinkerbell is incorrect.
No.
Last clue for 1 point.
Oh, you're right.
I fly to Never Never Land and help Peter Pan defeat the wicked Captain Hook.
Oh no.
Who am I?
Alexa, Wendy.
Which player was that?
2.
Correct.
Nice.
Player 2 won 1 point. The answer was Wendy Darling.
Nice.
Did you know, before Wendy Darling, the name Wendy was very uncommon in the English-speaking world?
Oh, interesting.
Question 2.
Alexa, quit. So I'm just quitting, even though I would like to continue, just because we're running out of time. I want to try another game. What should we try now?
Do you want to play? Should we play Trivia Hero? Do you want to play one of ours?
Let's do it. Alexa, open Trivia Hero.
Notice how everyone has music.
Welcome back to Trivia Hero.
And notice how you're seamlessly
against the clock.
joining voice
now,
and audio.
How many people want to play?
2.
Great, 2 it is. You'll get 60 seconds each to answer as many tricky trivia questions as possible. Answer say pass to move on. Player 1, I hope you're ready because your 60 seconds starts in 3, 2, 1, go. What is the name for the liquid inside a pen?
Ink.
What is the name of the galaxy of stars the solar system sits within?
Milky Way.
What is the main color of the flag of Switzerland?
Red. I like this.
In Salvador Dali's painting The Persistence of Memory, what is melting?
The clock. I like the different
What
times.
is the largest country in Western Europe by landmass?
France.
You're quite good at this.
Who was the winner of the 2018 Oscar for Best Actress? I missed that. Who was the winner of the 2018 Oscar for Best Actress? Give it a guess or say pass.
Pass.
It was Frances McDormand.
I would never have guessed that.
What do you stick on an envelope before posting it?
Stamp.
Which fairy tale character has extraordinarily long golden hair?
Goldilocks.
Goldilocks is wrong. It was Rapunzel.
Oh, Rapunzel.
That's it. Time's up. You got 6 right, putting you in the lead. Player 2, you're up. You need 7 right to take the lead.
Ooh,
Your
7.
60 seconds starts. Now, what do Fahrenheit and Celsius measure?
Temperature.
Across which river is London Bridge built?
The Thames.
The Bermuda Triangle is located in which ocean?
Atlantic.
In what country does the Phantom of the Opera take place?
France. No?
Oh, yeah. Apparently.
In 1940, who did Winston Churchill replace as British Prime Minister?
Oh,
A is wrong. It was Neville Chamberlain.
Oh, that's
The Great Wall is a famous tourist destination in which country?
China.
Who sang Poker Face and Bad Romance?
Lady Gaga.
Carrie, Samantha, Charlotte and Miranda were main characters in which show?
Sex in the City.
What is the name for the longest side of a right triangle?
The hypotenuse.
That's it. Time's up.
Didn't win.
You got 8 right, putting you in the lead ahead of player 1. Would you like to play another round?
No.
Okay, in that case, let's
Alexa.
hear your final score.
Exit.
So, that was a great game. I like the way that the chimes, every correct answer, get higher pitched.
If you ever get 10 in a row right, you get like a proper mega. It's an Easter egg because it's so hard. I think in the time that the game's been live, about 20 people have achieved it.
Really?
It's so hard to get 10 right.
Wow.
I've never got 10 right in a row.
Wow. So we have a couple questions. The first one is going back to finding developer topics. Is it difficult to find good developers? I remember I asked you this as well when after Meetup. How did you find developers which are specialized in voice skills?
So they weren't specialized in voice skills before I hired them. I found people that had experience working in Node.js, which is kind of what the SDK and various things work in. And then I kind of taught them how to do Alexa stuff. That is the nature of what we're doing at the moment. It's brand new. I don't think that it's easy to find people with experience doing that unless you're like Amazon or someone that can kind of like pay the mega bucks.
Well, I think it's just a matter of it being a completely new industry, so you can't really find people who have grown up building voice skills, right?
Yeah, you just really got to kind of like be patient and accept that you're gonna have a few misstarts before you kind of get there.
And another question is, how do you layer sound and speech together? I thought it was either text or speech, and this is a question by Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer, you're asking all the questions that I don't want to answer today. Like, I don't know.
So let's start off by saying you are right, Jennifer. It is either text or speech usually, but what did you do to get around this?
So it's a little bit of a platform hack. What we did was we recorded Alexa's voice and then layered it with an audio clip.
And then used that as an audio clip. And then used
it as an audio, yeah.
Which gave it a really good feel.
Yeah.
Because it allowed, because even though the voice is just the usual text-to-speech engine, with that music underneath, it gives it that much more, excitement and oomph. So it really goes a long way.
And I think that that this will become more and more of a thing. I would say at the moment, the bit rate that you can use for audio files is pretty low. It's like 46 kilobytes a second, which means that most music will sound a bit rubbish. And we have a sound designer who kind of masters it to try and make it sound better. I'm sure that will be fixed at some point.
Who knows?
Then that should be good. I would, again, this is the kind of thing that you want to do in the kind of like the polishing phase, because like having to re-record those like again and again. I mean, I didn't play you because like we'd only played one round and I couldn't be bothered. Like we would have just heard our scores again. But we used to play music out when you had the outro as well.
Oh, okay.
But we took it off because we were changing that script too much in it, and it was becoming frustrating to have to keep changing it.
Because it sounds like you're just using the text-to-speech engine, but really you're just doing exactly the same amount of work as using a voice actor almost, right?
Yeah.
Because you're recording Alexa's voice, then layering it on audio, mastering that, and reusing that as the audio clip. So,
If you are particularly interested in this subject and want to kind of know more, like drop me a message on Twitter and I can tell you a bit more about kind of some of the stuff that we're kind of like doing at the moment that extends this a bit further. That we're not quite ready to talk about publicly yet, but
he has some interesting stuff in the works around that. So just because I think the video, like the way that we are in the video is the opposite of how our names are. I'm Andrea, and this is Tom.
Hi.
So if you want to reach out to Tom on Twitter, it's Tom Hewitson. If you have any questions for me, it's Mutonia. And that goes back to pitching ideas back and forth. Feel free to reach out to me. So we're already 7 minutes over. I could go on 3 days talking about this.
Especially
I think it was super exciting. Why don't we maybe organize a part 2?
Yeah.
Hopefully. And we can just do some more demos and just go and just talk more about stuff. If you'd love to see that, please do let me know on Twitter. And I can use that as an excuse to organize it.
Yay.
And I'd be great to have Tom back. And with that, I would just like to thank you for joining us. It was great to have you. And all the best in building your skills. Again, the link for building skills for the Games Challenge is alexagames.bemyapp.com.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys.